In this part I'll be working on the two halves of the top of the workbench. So to start with, I took the 3x12 and ripped it in half lengthways. And then ripped it into 4x3" sections, which will allow me to have a 4" thick worktop. Once I'd ripped all the pieces, it was time to plane everything to final thickness. It was important that everything ended up being consistent thicknesses for the design to work. All of the 1x stock was milled to the exact same thickness at the exact same time, so that when I come to do the joinery, everything will fit together nicely. Each half of the top will be made up of 2 4x3s and a 2x3, and then 3 4x1s on each side. So having ripped the 3x12 into its parts, I ended up with 6 4x3s, each 1.8 meters long, and 2 of those would go into each half of the top, and a third one I ripped in half to make the 2x3s. And the remaining section will be used to make some of the cross rails between the legs. With all that stock now milled up for the top, I could go ahead and glue up the first section of the top, which was the 2 4x3s and the 2x3. Then I moved on to some of the joinery in the top. So I started by cutting the mortise for the wedged mortise and tenon. I did this by cutting some angles into one of the 4x1s. Here you can see how that joint works. You see it's wider at the top than at the bottom, and then once the leg is wedged out it will fill the gap nicely. And then went ahead and glued those parts onto the two halves of the top. To make it easier and to use less clamps, I'm clamping both halves of the top in the same set of clamps, which means I use half as many clamps. The second mortise and tenon on the legs will have a chamfer on 2 corners, and I did this at the router table. I actually built this router table just for this purpose using J-Bates plans. And you can see how that joint comes together here. Now to close in the angled mortise and tenon, I'm just putting in a straight section on either side which goes the whole length of the workbench, and that'll provide the sides for both the angled mortise and tenon and the wedged mortise and tenon. So that's it for this part. In the next part I will be working on the legs and hopefully getting the sort of sub-assembly all assembled. So thanks for watching.